Oh Lord, 7 seas that run, all those things that don't change. Our good times are all gone. I'm bound for moving. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. I think I'll go out to Alberni, where there's good land for fun. I've got some friends that I can go working for. Still, I wish you'd change your mind if I'd ask you one more time.
There's a ship lies rigging ready in the harbor. Tomorrow for old England, she said. Far away from your land of endless sunshine, to my land full of rainy skies. And I shall be aboard that ship tomorrow, for my heart is full of tears and this farewell. For you are beautiful, and I love you more dearly than the spoken word.
To the supermarket flash from the windowsill, through the day old tea from the cup, packed up the photo album that you had made, memories of a life that's been loved. Took the Garrett Welsh cards and stuffed animals, poured the old ginger beer down the sink. Dad always told me, don't you cry when you're down, but Mum, there's a tear every time that I blink. Oh, I'm in pieces, it's tearing me up, but I know a heart that's broke is a heart that's been loved. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. When God takes you back, you'll say hallelujah, you're home. Fluff the pillows, made the bed, stacked the chairs up, folded your nightgowns neatly in a cake. John said he'd drive, then put his hand on my cheek and wiped a tear from the side of my face. Now that I see the world as you did, as I know a life with love is a life that's been lived. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. And when God takes you back, say hallelujah, you're home. Hallelujah, you were an angel in the shape of my mom. You got to see the person I have become. Spread your wings and I know when God took you back.
There's a handicap one, I know needs are both different. Yes, and the handicap.
Strong wind, oh Lord, 7 seas that run high, all those things that don't change, couple of things. Our good times are all gone, I'm bound for moving. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way.
Checking 1, 2, check. Testing mic signal downstairs.
To Alberni, weather's good there.
Checking 1, 2, checking mic signal downstairs. Checking mic signal downstairs. Normal talking voice. Checking, checking, checking. Checking 1, 2, check. Testing mic signal downstairs. Checking 1, 2, check, check. Checking 1, 2, check. Checking the mic downstairs. Checking 1, 2, check. Checking 1, 2, checking 1, 2, check.
Tomorrow for old England, she said, far away from your land of endless sunshine, to my land full of rainy skies. My lad shall be born and ship tomorrow, for my heart is full of tears at this farewell. For you are beautiful, and I love you more dearly than the spoken word.
I pray you'll be alright. Not just where we tell us to be wild. In times when we don't know, let this be our prayer as we go away. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, to a place where we'll be safe.
Long to that.
I took the supermarket flyers from the windowsill, through the day of tea from the cup. Packed up the photo album that you had made, memories of a life that's been loved. Took the get well soon cards and stuffed animals, poured the old ginger beer down the sink. Dad always told me, don't you cry when you're down, but Mum, there's a tear every time that I blink. Oh, I'm in pieces, it's tearing me up, but I know a heart that's broke is a heart that's been loved. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. When God takes you back, you'll say hallelujah, you're home. Fluffed the pillows, made the bed, stacked the chairs up, folded your nightgowns neatly in a cake. John said he'd drive, then put his hand on my cheek and wiped a tear from the side of my face. And I hope that I see the world as you did, 'cause I know a life with love is a life that's been lived. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go, and when God takes you back, say hallelujah, you're hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mind. You got to see the person I have become. Spread your wings, and I know that when God took you back, He said, hallelujah, you're home.
Again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Smiling just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy.
For strong wind, low low, seven seas that run behind, all those things that don't change, couple of things. Our good times are all gone. I'm bound for moving. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. I think I'll go out to Alberni, where there's good land of fun. Got some friends that I could go working for. Still, I wish you'd change your mind if I'd ask you one more time.
And I shall be aboard that ship tomorrow. For my heart is full of tears and tears farewell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dear, more dearly than the spoken word.
I pray you'll be alright. Not just where we tell us to be blind. In times when we don't know, let this be our prayer as we go away. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, to a place where we'll be safe.
Love together.
Took the supermarket flyers from the windowsill, threw the day old tea from the cup, packed up the photo album Matthew had made, memories of a life that's been loved. Took the Garrett Wells cards and stuffed animals, poured the old ginger beer down the sink. Dad always told me, don't you cry when you're down, but Mum, there's a tear every time that I blink. Oh, I'm in pieces, it's tearing me up, but I know a heart that's broke is a heart that's been loved. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. When God takes you back, say hallelujah, you're home. Fluff the pillows, made the bed, stacked the chairs up, folded your nightgowns neatly in a case. John said he'd drive, then put his hand on my cheek and wiped a tear from the side of my face. And I hope that I see the world as you did, as I know a life with love is a life that's been lived. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. When God takes you back, say hallelujah, you're home. Hallelujah, you were an angel in the shape of my mom. You got to see the
Checking 1, 2, check. Checking 1, 2, checking 1, 2, check. Checking 1, 2, check.
sunny day. Smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy.
Four strong winds blow, seven seas that love, all those things that don't change.
For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word.
I took the supermarket flyers from the windowsill, threw the day old tea from the cup, packed up the photo album Matthew had made, memories of a life that's been loved. Took the get well soon cars and stuffed animals, poured the old ginger beer down the sink. Dad always told me, don't you cry when you're down, but Mum, there's a tear every time that I blink. Oh, I'm in pieces, it's tearing me up, but I know a heart that's broke is a heart that's been loved. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mum. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. When God takes you back, He'll say hallelujah, you're home. I fluffed the pillows, made the bed, stacked the chairs up, folded your nightgowns neatly in a case. John said he'd drive, then put his hand on my cheek and wiped a tear from the side of my face. And I hope that I see the world as you did, 'cause I know a life with love is a life that's been lived. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mum. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. And when God takes you back, He'll say hallelujah, you're home. Hallelujah, you were an angel in the shape of my mum. You got to see the person I have become. Spread your wings and I know that when God took you back, He said hallelujah, you're home.
Again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know.
For strong wind, blow low, 7 seas that run high, all those things that don't change, come what may. Our good times are all gone, I'm bound for moving on. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. I think I'll go out to Alberni. Weather's good there in the fall. I've got some friends that I could go to working for. Still, I wish you'd change your mind if I'd ask you one more time.
There's a ship lies rigged and ready in the harbor. Tomorrow for old England she sails, far away from your land of endless sunshine, to my land full of rainy skies and gales. And I shall be aboard that ship tomorrow, though my heart is full of tears at this farewell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word.
I pray you'll be alright, and watch us where we go, and tell us to be wise in times when we don't know. Let this be as we go away. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, to a place where we'll be safe.
La luce che tu dai.
I took the supermarket flyers from the windowsill, threw the day old tea from the cup, packed up the photo album Matthew had made, memories of a life that's been loved. Took the get well soon cars and stuffed animals, poured the old ginger beer down the sink. Dad always told me, don't you cry when you're down, but Mum, there's a tear every time that I blink. Oh, I'm in pieces, it's tearing me up, but I know a heart that's broke is a heart that's been loved, so I'll sing hallelujah.
Test.
You were an angel in the shape of my mom.
Can you hear back there, Dad?
When When I fell down, you'd be there.
Can you?
holding
Thumbs up
me
if you can hear.
Spread your wings as you go. When God takes you back, He'll say, hallelujah, you're home. Fluffed the pillows, made the bed, stacked the chairs up, folded your nightgowns neatly in a case. John said he'd drive, then put his hand on my cheek and wiped a tear from the side of my face. And I hope that I see the world as you did, 'cause I know a life with love is a life that's been lived. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. And when God takes you back, He'll say hallelujah, you're home. Hallelujah, you were an angel in the shape of my mom. You got to see the person I have become. Spread your wings and I know that when God took you back, He said hallelujah, you're home.
Again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to
Four strong winds blow lonely, seven seas that run high. All those things that don't change, come what may. Our good times are all gone. I'm bound for moving on. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. I think I'll go out to Alberni. Weather's good there in the fall. I've got some friends that I could go to working for. Still, I wish you'd change your mind if I'd ask you one more time.
a ship lies rigged and ready in the harbor. Tomorrow for old England she sails, far away from your land of endless sunshine, to my land full of rainy skies and gales. And I shall be aboard that ship tomorrow, though my heart is full of tears at this farewell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word.
I pray you'll be alright, and watch us where we go, and tell us to be wise in times when we don't know. Let this be our prayer as we go away. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, to a place where we'll be safe.
La luce che tu dai.
I took the supermarket flowers from the windowsill, threw the day old tea from the cup, packed up the photo album Matthew had made, memories of a life that's been loved. Took the get well soon cars and stuffed animals, poured the old ginger beer down the sink. Dad always told me, don't you cry when you're down, but Mum, there's a tear every time that I blink. Oh, I'm in pieces, it's tearing me up, but I know a heart that's broke is a heart that's been loved. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mum. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go, and when God takes you back, He'll say hallelujah, you're home. Fluffed the pillows, made the bed, stacked the chairs up, folded your nightgowns neatly in a case. John said he'd drive, then put his hand on my cheek and wiped a tear from the side of my face. And I hope that I see the world as you did, 'cause I know a life with love is a life that's been lived. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mum. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go, and when God takes you back, He'll say hallelujah, you're home. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. You got to see the person I have become. Spread your wings and I know that when God took you back, he said, hallelujah, you're home.
Good afternoon. My name is not Teresa Kingston. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Could everyone please turn off your cell phone? No, don't do that yet. Jim, if you can hear me, please feel free to text me how the audio is. Downstairs, the restaurant. How's that coming through? Main floor, washrooms, bathrooms, sound check. 1, 2, 3. I am talking now into the microphone. Jim, can you hear me? How's it coming through? Hello? Calling all woodchucks. Jim, testing. 1, 2, 3. How's the audio coming through downstairs? Can you hear me at all? Or have you completely unplugged everything? Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. It's clear, but quite. No idea. The text message didn't come through. It's clear, but quite. Quite what? Quite quiet, maybe? Clear, but quiet? Okay. Let's try that. That's probably made it louder throughout the whole hall. How's that coming through downstairs?
More strong wind.
Is that better?
Oh, Lord.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Sound check. 1, 2, 3. Testing,
All
testing.
those things
1, 2, 3. Oh, you're back up here.
are good times. They're all gone. I'm bound for moving. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. I think I'll go out to Alberni. Weather's good, bad, and fun. Got some friends that I could go to working for. Still, I wish you'd change your mind if I'd ask you one more time.
There's a ship lies rigged and ready in the harbor. Tomorrow for old England she sails, far away from your land of endless sunshine, to my land full of rainy skies again. And I shall be aboard that ship tomorrow, though my heart is full of tears at this farewell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dear, more dearly than the spoken word.
I took the supermarket flyers from the windowsill, threw the day old tea from the cup, packed up the photo album Matthew had made, memories of a life that's been loved. Took the get well soon cars and stuffed animals, poured the old ginger beer down the sink. Dad always told me, don't you cry when you're down, but Mum, there's a tear every time that I blink. Oh, I'm in pieces, it's tearing me up, but I know a heart that's broke is a heart that's been loved. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. When God takes you back, you'll say hallelujah, you're home. Fluffed the pillows, made the bed, stacked the chairs up, folded your nightgowns neatly in a case. John said he'd drive, then put his hand on my cheek and wiped a tear from the side of my face. And I hope that I see the world as you did, 'cause I know a life with love is a life that's been lived. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. And when God takes you back, you'll say hallelujah, you're home. Hallelujah, you were an angel in the shape of my mom. You got to see the person I have become. Spread your wings and I know that when God took you back, he said hallelujah, you're home.
Again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Smiling too, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy.
4 strong winds blow low, 7 seas that run high. All those things that don't change from one day. Our good times are all gone. I'm bound for moving on. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. I think I'll go out to Alberni. Weather's good there and fun. Got some friends that I could go working for. Still, I wish you'd change your mind if I'd ask you one more time.
It's all streaming.
Yeah. And this mic picks up pretty good.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Like I don't have to talk right into it, or do I?
Well, the louder the better for downstairs.
Okay, right in?
We don't want to crank it too loud.
Yep.
So.
Okay. Okay. I don't know what to say when people tell me to keep talking. Oh yeah, good afternoon. My name is Teresa Kingston. On behalf of the Trumper family, I would like to welcome you to the celebration of the life of Jillian Trumper. I'm very honored to be here today as we remember her and reflect on her life. I'd like to acknowledge that we're sitting today on the unceded territory of the Hoopachesit and Tashot First Nations. And before we start, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. Do I need to still keep talking, Jeff? Okay, so I'll keep going. Could everyone please turn off your cell phones? Thank you. I'd like to point out the fire exits. Downstairs, the front entrance up the stairs, the front entrance to the parking lot, and the stairs past the kitchen, up and out the main level. On this floor, the front entrance, the doors to the left of the stage, or through the kitchen, and the side patio doors. I feel like a stewardess. Exits that way, that way, that way. Are we okay? Can I stop now? Who's downstairs?
I'm running back and forth.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Don and Gary, your table is right over here where my dad is.
This is the light picking up.
Okay, let me know when I can stop talking.
No, I bypassed that one. It's hardwired.
Who are you looking for, Noreen?
Well, I'm just checking how the table numbers go.
So what's the audience from
And there's name tags on the table.
Took together words and cards and stuffed animals. Put the old ginger beer down the sink. Dad always told me, don't you cry when you're down. But Mom, there's a tear every time that I blink. Oh, I'm in pieces, it's tearing me up, but I know a heart that's broke is a heart that's been loved. So I'll sing hallelujah. You You are an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. When God takes you back, say hallelujah, you're home. Fluff the pillows, made the bed, stack the chairs up. Folded your nightgowns neatly in a case. John said he'd drive, then put his hand on my cheek and wiped a tear from the side of my face. Now that I see the world as you did, 'cause I know that life without is a life that's been led. So I'll say hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. When God takes you back, say hallelujah, you're home.
Hi, and I've been seeing. Oh, so you were Jillian's cousin? Yeah. I live in Milwaukee. Oh, okay. Definitely down there. Lots of big Ansford winery down there. Oh, so you're not far. Oh. Oh, okay. Yeah. How are you? I'm good. You're all set? Yeah. Grandchild.
Hallelujah. You are an angel in the shape of my mind. You got to see the person I have become. Spread your wings and I know when God took you back. He said, hallelujah.
All of the things that don't are defined. All those I'll look for you. I'll never. That's something I just figured I'd try this one again. Did I see you change your mind? If I see one more time.
Tomorrow, she said, far away from your laughter, to my land full of rainy skies, and I shall be aboard that ship tomorrow, though my heart is full of tears at this farewell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word.
Tell us to be wise in times when we don't know. Let this be our prayer as we go away. Lead us to a place, let us wake place, in your hands where we be safe.
Love to God.
To the sea of the flash from the sun, through the door of tea from the cup, I dropped the phone of you had made, memories of a life that's been over. Took the girls on cars and stuff home. The ocean beer down the center. God always told me, don't you cry your down, but Mom hesitated every time. Over in pieces, tearing apart. A heart that's broke is a heart that's been loved, so I'll sing hallelujah. You are an angel in the shape of my mouth. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you call me. God takes you back. Say hallelujah, you're home. Float the pillows, make the bed, stack the chair. Hold your nightgown gently in the cake. John said he'd drive and put his head on my cheek and watch a tear from the side of my face. I hope that I see the world as you did, 'cause I know that life without is a life that's been lived. So I'll sing hallelujah. You are an angel in the shape of my mouth. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go, and then God takes you back. You say hallelujah. You've got to see the person that becomes rejoice and I know when God took you back. He said, I with me love.
alone. Seven seas that run, all those things that don't change. Our good times are all gone. I'm bound and moving.
Testing audio downstairs. Checking testing audio downstairs.
If I'm ever back this way, I think I'll go out to Alberni, where there's good, bad, and fun. Got some friends that I can go working for. Still, I wish you'd change your mind if I'd ask you one more time.
There's a ship lies rigged and ready in the harbor. Tomorrow for old England she sails, far away from your land of endless sunshine, to my land full of rainy skies. And I shall be aboard. For my heart is full of tears at this farewell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you more dearly than the spoken word.
I pray you'll be alright. Watch out where we and tell us to be right in times when we don't know. Let this be our prayer as we go away. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, to a place where we'll be safe.
Lunch and
I took the supermarket flyers from the windowsill, threw the day old tea from the cup, packed up the photo album Matthew had made, memories of a life that's been loved. Took the Garrett Wilson cars and stuffed animals, poured the old ginger beer down the sink. Dad always told me, don't you cry when you're down, but Mum, there's a tear every time that I blink. Oh, I'm in pieces, it's tearing me up, but I know a heart that's broke is a heart that's been loved, so I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. Spread your wings as you go. When God takes you back, you say hallelujah, you're home. Fluffed the pillows, made the bed, stacked the chairs up, folded your nightgowns neatly in a case. John said he'd drive, then put his hand on my cheek and wiped a tear from the side of my face. And I hope that I see the world as you did, 'cause I know a life with love is a life that's been lived. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. When God takes you back, say hallelujah, you're home. Hallelujah, you were an angel in the shape of my mom. You got to see the person I have become. Spread your wings and I know when God took you back, He said hallelujah, you're home.
Again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Smiling, just like always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy.
Four strong winds, low, low, seven seas that run, all those things that don't change. Our good times are all gone. I'm bound for moving. I'll look for you if I'm ever driving slow. I think I'll go out to Alberni. Weather's good, bad, and fun. Got some friends that I could go working for. Still, I wish you'd change your mind if I'd ask you one more time.
in the harbor. Tomorrow for old England, she said, far away from your land of endless sunshine, to my land full of rainy skies. And I shall be aboard that ship tomorrow, for my heart is full of tears at this farewell. For you are beautiful, and I have let you see more dearly than the spoken word.
Took the supermarket flyers from the windowsill, threw the day old tea from the cup, packed up the photo album Matthew had made, memories of a life that's been loved. Took the Garrett Wilson cars and stuffed animals, poured the old ginger beer down the sink. Dad always told me, don't you cry when you're down, but Mum, there's a tear every time that I blink. Oh, I'm in pieces, it's tearing me up, but I know a heart that's broke is a heart that's been loved, so I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go, and when God takes you back, you say hallelujah, you're home. Fluffed the pillows, made the bed, stacked the chairs up, folded your nightgowns neatly in a cake. John said he'd drive, then put his hand on my cheek and wiped a tear from the side of my face. And I hope that I see the world as you did, 'cause I know a life with love is a life that's been lived, so I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go, and when God takes you to see the person I have become. Spread your wings and I know that when God took you back, He said, hallelujah, you're home.
Again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Smiling just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please?
Weather's good, bad, or fall. Got some friends that I could go to working for. Still, I wish you'd change your mind if I'd ask you one more time.
Hello? If we could ask people to take a seat, so that we know how many empty seats we have up here, because we have a lot of people downstairs. And the only way we know how many people to bring upstairs is when we count the empty seats. So if people could find their way to the chair. And once Carol Ann is counted, it'll be about another 10 minutes and then we'll get started. But if you could stay in your seat.
the pillows, make the bed, stack the chairs up, folded your nightgowns neatly in a cake. John said he drive and put his hand on my cheek and wiped a tear from the side of my face. Now that I see the world is complete, 'cause I know that life will not live a life that's been lived. So I'll sing hallelujah. You are an angel and you stay from my mom. When I fell down, you were holding me up. Spread your wings as you flow, and then stars kiss you by. Hallelujah.
Last check on the audio downstairs. Last check on the audio downstairs.
afternoon. My name is Teresa Kingston. On behalf of the Trumper family, I would like to welcome you to this celebration of the life of Jillian Trumper. I am very honored to be here today as we remember her and reflect on her life. I want to do a few housekeeping items though before we get into the celebration. Could everyone please turn off their cell phone? Thank you. I would also like to point out the fire exits. So for those folks downstairs, the front entrance up the stairs, the front entrance to the parking lot, and the stairs past the kitchen and up to the main level are the fire exits. For people on the main floor, the front exit, entrance, the doors to the left of the stage, and through the kitchen, out this way as well, are all fire exits. I feel like a stewardess directing people. Anyways, and it's important to keep all the fire exits clear, so making sure that we don't move chairs or those types of things in front of those exits. Washrooms, the downstairs washrooms are to the left. The upstairs washrooms are straight out those doors and to your right, and there's a handicap washroom to my left over here. So now we've got that taken care of. Jillian was a friend to many in this room and spent her life making this world a better place through her civic and volunteer work. She was a trailblazer for women in politics and a strong supporter and advocate for the Alberni Valley. More importantly, she was a mom to her children, Owen, Carolyn, Michael, and Trish, and a grandma to Alicia, Melissa, Jordan, Jackson, Nicholas, Tanya, and Warren, and a wonderful sister to Margaret. Family was very important to Jillian. What I'd like to do now is call Brent Ronning, who's going to sing one of Jillian's favorite songs, You Raise Me Up. Music? Please.
When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up on stormy seas. I am strong as I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up to more than I can
I believe that's a very fitting song, as for many people in this room, Jillian raised us up to be more than what we could be without her. And thank you, Brent. Our first speaker today is the Mayor of Port Alberni's Shari Minions. Like Jillian, Shari is a mom to 4 children, and her husband Colin is a local businessman. Shari shares Jillian's passion and commitment to the Alberni Valley, and she was honored to have Jillian sign her nomination papers for the mayor in 2018. Please welcome Mayor Minions.
Thank you. It's not a good sign if you cry before you have to speak. Thank you, Brent, for that beautiful song to get us started today. I'm honored to be here today on behalf of Council and the City of Port Alberni to celebrate the life of one of our community's greatest leaders. I remember the first time I met Jillian Trumper. I was 21 years old and had just moved back to Port Alberni after a few years living away. I was at a women's networking event, and I walked in, and I literally couldn't believe that Jillian Trumper was there. 21-year-old me felt like I was meeting some kind of superstar. I couldn't believe that all of a sudden I was in the kind of circle where I could just meet the mayor. She wasn't the mayor at that time, but she had, been short since retired from public office, and it just seemed like the craziest thing that I could be in the same room as Jillian Trumper. We each introduced ourselves and talked about why we were there. I have no idea what I said about myself, but I do remember very clearly Jillian saying that she was there because she wanted to encourage more women to enter politics. It was a moment of time in my life that I won't forget. I went home that night and very excitedly said to my husband, "You will never believe who I met tonight. It was Jillian Trumper." And Colin wasn't from Port Alberni, so that meant nothing to him, and he really didn't share in my excitement. But it was an exciting time for me to meet Jillian. She was someone that I had always admired growing up. While I feel really fortunate that I've had the opportunity to get to know and build a relationship with Jillian since entering politics, Much of the influence she had in my life, or on my life, happened before I even met her. Jillian was the mayor for me from the time I was born until I entered high school. Then, of course, she went on to be our MLA. So she really was the leader of our community for my entire young life. Little known fact, when I was 12 years old, my best friend and I wrote a list of 10 life plans. One of those plans, and I am quoting this, was to take over for Jillian Trumper. And to be co-mayors of Port Alberni. Well, Jessica did let me down on her co-mayoring responsibilities, but interesting reflecting back now that I really grew up thinking that there was no reason why I couldn't one day be mayor. And I never really thought anything of it to have a woman in this position. I didn't see it as a big thing for our community to be proud of. It was just normal. I feel incredibly privileged to have grown up in a time in Port Alberni where I was able to take for granted the significance of Jillian in her position. Very rarely in a city's history does a person come along who leaves such a profound impact. Jillian Trumper is Port Alberni, and our community is incredibly lucky to have had her as our leader. I know Jillian will be remembered for the physical projects that she contributed to and left as part of her time in public office, because those contributions are certainly significant. But I believe her legacy will be the lives she affected. The people she encouraged to step up and put their names forward for committees, the colleagues she built relationships with and helped shape into true community leaders, and the many people like me that she maybe never even met, but whose lives she shifted just by her presence in our community. So today it's my honor to be here to thank and appreciate Jillian Trumper, Freedom of the City, and the longest serving mayor we have ever had, for all that she contributed to this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Shari. And it's not a good thing when the MC starts to cry either, so I'll keep it together here. Our next speaker is Dr. Judith Sayers. Judith is currently president of the Nechalath Tribal Council. Previously, she was chief of the Hoopachesset First Nations for 14 years and worked with Jillian Trumper in her capacity as mayor and MLA during that time. Please welcome Dr. Sayers.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be here today on the unceded territory of the Hoopachesset and Sashat to speak about a woman who touched so many lives and who did so many things in honor of her community. The deepest condolences to all of the family on your loss. From the Nechalath people. Nechalath, of course, are 14 First Nations, almost 11,000, and all of us knew Jillian. I remember when I first got elected as chief, we were at war with the city over water lines and, you know, silly little things. And it took us a while, but we started working together. Council to council meetings. It took us a while to trust each other. But you know, I remember one Saturday I was out at fish day and had to get out of the river and run out to McLean Mill for July the 1st. And Jillian and I walked in to start the ceremonies together. Now that was a moment that showed that First Nations and cities can work together. You know, maybe it was the start of reconciliation, that we just didn't call it that. It was that we realized we lived in the same communities, that we both wanted our people to thrive, that we had to make the most of everything that was in our area. And so We did. We worked together. And then she went on to become an MLA. And at the time, I was warring with Gordon Campbell and his Liberals. And Rich can tell you this. Because they wanted to do this referendum on treaties. Like, why were they asking people about our rights? And we, you know, I was pretty angry. And so Jillian and I had a lot of really good conversations. You can imagine those. But you know, she always listened to me. And she always tried to advocate for us. And then when Gordon Campbell saw the light and new relationship, life was a lot better. But you know, I remember Jillian as someone who really cared. You know, that she would try to make things happen, make things work, even if we were at odds with one another. We respected each other. And I think that's really important, a really great quality in someone who's in a position of authority. And so I have so many memories of being down at Harbor Key in the rain for some ceremony or other, or lighting the Christmas lights, and Jillian being there. You know, there's not a lot of things that I don't have a memory of public life without Jillian and I being in the same room. And that's the kind of leader you need. Someone who is always there for the people, no matter what it costs the family. And thank you for sharing her and her capabilities and her love for people and for Port Alberni, because we've all been the benefit of her years of service, of her years of loving this community and helping to turn it into what it is. And of course, we don't do it all alone. You have to have a team. And she had a good team. And that's what makes an effective leader, is being able to utilize those around you to get what you need to do. And she was that leader. So today it's my honor to be here to speak of the life of someone who touched many people, including myself. And I thought it was very important for me to come today and speak to that, to speak of these memories of Jillian and what she meant to the Nuu-chah-nulth people, because she was there for us as well. So thank you for the time today. Clay ko, clay ko.
Thank you, Judith. Our next speaker is the MLA for Langley East, Rich Coleman. Mr. Coleman was the Solicitor General for BC and was known as the Minister of Everything, the guy that gets things done, which is probably why he and Jillian felt such a kinship during her term as MLA. He continues to mentor new MLAs as a member of the official opposition. Please welcome Rich Coleman.
Well, good afternoon. First of all, thank you for having me and give me the opportunity to speak on behalf of the people that outside of Port Alberni that have had the pleasure of having the service of Jillian Trumper all these years. The people in the legislature, my colleagues in the BC Liberal Caucus and the other caucus, the NDP caucus, some of their MLAs are here today. It just shows you how much respect we all had for Jillian. Jillian was one of the best grassroots politicians I've ever met, if not the best ever. And she was an even better person. She was one of those people that when you serve with them in a legislature, it's like you're always walking into the room with a class act. Someone that really cares about what's going on today, but also what's going on back home, and her family, and everything all combined, and gets things done simply by giving you this stare when she comes into your office and wants to give you her opinion on something. She's trusted and she's loyal and she's professional in so many ways, but I can tell you when her passion came into something she wanted done, the easiest thing was to get past the stare and figure out the solution, because she wasn't going to go away. I I became the Solicitor General in 2001, and part of my duties was to change and look at and reorganize the Coroner Service of British Columbia. It wasn't very long after I became the Minister that Jillian arrived in my office, because she had been a coroner, and she had opinions, and some pretty strong ones as well. But she became, frankly, a real asset to me as we modernized the coroner service as you know it today. Her influence touched what was done, how it was organized, and how well it works today because of Jillian. I've heard from a number of my colleagues, although I was telling Gerard at the table, most of my colleagues seem to be in Arizona or Palm Springs or Hawaii this time of year, and he asked me what was wrong with this picture. But I must say to you that they have reached out knowing I was coming to at least to pass on their condolences to the family and our love for you and the thanks for you to giving us Jillian in this province all these years. Coming up here today, I stopped at Cathedral Grove. This is where it gets hard. I did that because Jillian was the first person to take me there and tell me how a special place it was. So I stopped and took a walk and said a little prayer for my friend. And as I did, something came to mind. I remembered a saying that somebody said once. A person is placed on this earth for a reason. And the rent they pay for the space they get to occupy on this earth is a service to their fellow man. Jillian more than paid the rent. She changed lives, she lifted people up, and inspired people to do like the mayor and others in public life. I'm sure she inspired her children and her grandchildren, and you will inspire generations to come because of her influence. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Rich. Next person to speak is Ron Crema from the Port Authority. Ron Crema is the current chair of the Port Alberni Port Authority of Directors and worked closely with Jillian for close to 6 years on that board. During their time together, they provided strong leadership and incalculable contributions to both the Port Authority and Port Alberni as a whole. Ron Crema.
Geez, Rich, way to go. I can hardly read my notes. First of all, like many of you, if not most of you, I felt a special bond with Jillian. It was just the way she was. I never thought in a million years that this day would ever come, nor did I think in a million years that I would be so privileged to be considered to say a few words in honor of this very prestigious lady. Thank you to the family, and thank you, Teresa, for your warm introduction. Good afternoon once again. My name is Ron Crema. When the family asked if someone from the Port Authority would like to say a few words at Jillian's celebration of life, I was more than honored to have been looked upon for that request. Jillian spent 9 years on the board of the Port Authority, the maximum allowed under the Canada Marine Act. Her previous years of experience brought wisdom, and with that wisdom came great respect. I, along with many others, both port staff and directors, were fortunate and blessed to have been there to work alongside this amazing woman and marvel at the way she not only captured our attention, but kept us efficiently on topic. During her time on the board, she worked in various capacities. She chaired the Audit and Finance Committee, she chaired the Personnel and Compensation Committee, she chaired the Governance Committee, and for a period, she was the board chair. Of course she was. During those tenures, she not only held firm to the policies, but she held firm to her ideals and her convictions, rarely giving an inch. Why? Well, hate to admit it, but arguably, she was seldom wrong. Another mandate of the Canada Marine Act to maintain status as a port authority was to be financially self-sufficient. She took this very seriously. Regardless of which committees she was heading up, the underlying mantra was always, it's okay to spend, but spend wisely and never leave ourselves short to run our core business. Very simple, but effective advice. Her vision contributed directly to recruiting and forming a great group of people at the board who worked tirelessly to follow her lead. While on the board, two great passions that attained unanimous endorsement that will enrich our waterfront for years to come were the developments of Centennial Pier and Tyee Landing, always searching for projects that would enhance our valley and showcase this hidden treasure she called home. She was motherly, a mentor, and to most of us, a matriarch. She was like the Queen Mother, and not just because of her royal British accent, but because of her wisdom and guidance and stoic demeanor. Stoic is the important one. She gave generously and selflessly of her time, and she did it professionally and with unfettered abandon, and you've heard that. Those are admirable and very enviable qualities. In conclusion, like Mother Teresa to her church to make a better world, so too was Jillian to her boards and committees to make a better world. On a personal note, it was an honor and a privilege to have sat beside her on the Port Authority board. She was a very, very special woman. Although average in stature, she was a giant in my eyes. She will be sorely missed, but never forgotten. Jillian may not be satisfied to have gone to a better place. Jillian has very likely gone to make a better place. She can't help herself. And finally, God bless you, Jillian, and go easy on them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Our next speaker is June Hickman. June has been a close friend of Jillian's for over 50 years. June and Jillian were often partners in crime, working together on Jillian's campaigns and supporting Jillian in making a difference in this community. June Hickman.
It is indeed an honor for me to speak to all of you today. The speakers before me have eloquently reminded us of Jill's many accomplishments. Jill and I met shortly after Echo Center opened when we were both teaching swimming. Bet you didn't know that. We became very good friends and shared many interests with over 50 years of friendship. And I can honestly say there was never a harsh word. There was a little collusion getting you to do things, but one particular thing I remember is when we came back from sailing for a year, and it was the second year that the Port Authority was having the sail past with the boats all lit up. She asked me to ask Fred if he would consider putting a sailboat in the thing. And so I asked him, and he said, "What? Get out there in the cold weather and have to find a generator somewhere?" 3 days later, Jill phoned. "I'd like to speak to Fred, please." He found the generator, he put the lights up, all with a lovely smile. To the whole Trumper family, I extend my family's sincere condolences. When Jill was at hospice, we had a few phone chats early in the morning when she was at her best. And the last one will remain with me forever. It started with me saying, "I hardly know what to say. We neglected to think ahead on this one, didn't we?" Then I reminded her of how she took great delight in teasing me that as her driver, I could never find my way out of an underground garage. She then burst into laughter. And Trish said to me a few minutes later, "What did you say to my mother to make her laugh like that?" And I said, well, she understood exactly what I was saying. So just to wrap up, because I set myself with 4 goals, and one was to make it short, do it without the tears. We're getting there. And I would just like to say, we all deal in our own way with our losses and gather strength from one another. And there's just so many wonderful people in this room tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, June. Our next speaker is Councillor Dan Washington. Dan Washington first began working with Gillian in 1999 when he was elected to council and Gillian was mayor. They quickly formed a bond through many community organizations and events. Dan is president of the Port Alberni Salmon Festival Society and a lifetime member of Kiwanis International. Like Gillian, Dan is a passionate supporter of the Our Town program and was named Port Alberni Citizen of the Year in 2013. Dan Washington.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really unsure exactly when I first met Gillian. I'm thinking most probably at Salmon Festival, where she used to volunteer in the kitchen and flip those damn K-burgers. Gillian was one of the main reasons I decided to run for City Council. After telling her on occasion I was sitting in front of the TV yelling at the damn council that was on the TV for that evening, she told me, run. She also told me on election day to plonk, which means to only vote for yourself because it increases your chance to win. And in 1999, I was elected and had the privilege to be with Jill. She had quite a task of grooming us newbies out there. The council of the day, myself, my wife Chris, Ken McRae, and Charles Mealy. I recall after one difficult meeting on more than one occasion, along with councillors Brett and Chopra, she would haul us out the back door of City Hall into the back door of the Legion, sign us all in, make us all get a drink and sit down and we could debrief. Funny thing is, she always hated going there because the Legion kept the red wine in the freezer. In 2001, I was overjoyed when Gillian was elected as MLA, but also sad to see her go, losing her guidance as mayor. When she left, she gave me a bit of advice that I still live by today. And I wish I could say it with a British accent, but I can't. It is, don't give a tuppence about who gets the credit as long as things get done. In Victoria, as MLA, Gillian and her staff, Marianne, Noreen, and Mrs. Souther, quickly became known as the Alberni Mafia. And I became the unofficial maintenance man of the MLA office, changing out fluorescent bulbs and boarding up windows got broken windows in early morning hours. Gillian was always grateful of all that we did. Gillian and I shared the same birthday, and over time it became commonplace for us to celebrate together. Many times she'd bring me all sorts of frou-frou beers that I could never bring myself to try. And Gillian was smart. She was smart like a fox. Every year before Christmas season, she would invite a group over to her house for a roast beef dinner, including Yorkshire pudding, my favorite. And in return, the ladies there would help her put up the Christmas tree and decorate it, while the men drank beer and critiqued it. She was very smart. Gillian was a very private person, and you felt honored when you were invited into her inner circle. You would always receive the, I'm fine, when you asked, and no, it's all right, when you thought she might need a hand. She always worried more about others than herself. She was a stoic in the face of illness, brave in the face of adversity, and always compassionate in the plight of others. Gillian was one of those people that would walk in so softly, walk right into your heart, and you didn't even realize she was there until she had to get up and walk out. Today I will remind you of a few Gillian words of wisdom to live by. Number one, don't give a tuppence who gets the credit. On election day, plonk. And most importantly, never put the red wine in the refrigerator. We love you, Gillian. We'll never forget you. Your passing has been a great loss. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I'd now like to call up Carolyn Trumper, who will speak on behalf of the family.
So, thank you. I'm one of 4 children who were sitting at the table down there, and I'm not sure if I got the short straw or the long straw to be up here speaking to everybody today. We would like to thank this community and the city for its unwavering support of Mum for 50 plus years and to her family during these past difficult weeks. It's not quite possible to complete a quick overview of all of Mum's many accomplishments the hearts she touched, the lives she influenced, and the respect she earned from many. Over the last month, we have been reading and listening to the amazing tributes and thoughts that people have of Mom on the internet, the newspapers, TV, and all sorts of social media. It's been quite overwhelming. It's opened our eyes on her life outside of family and personal impact on many lives. What shines through is the remarkable quality of her dealings with people, her ability to make all her interactions feel both special and personal. Gillian Rosemary Pedman was born in Croydon, England on April 28, 1936, to parents Wilfred and Betty Pedman. She has one sister, Margaret, who is with us here today, and she's been just a source of incredible support to the family this week. Gillian Rosemary Trumper died on October 11th, 2019, after complications from renal failure. I have lots of words here, so hang on. Courage. We smile to think of a young immigrant woman, 23 years old, climbing into the belly of a cargo plane in England and landing in Calgary, Alberta in 1957. New world, new life, to join our dad, who I think had figured out that in Mom he had the right partner for this great adventure. Our English cousins shared this perspective, that she was a remarkable lady, a tower of strength and an example to us all. Not only did she achieve more personally than any of us could hope to achieve, but she successfully, raised 4 children and ran a home at the same time, and that Uncle Mike was a lucky man to find her. As a family today, we would like to share a painted picture of her private life, because I'm not sure that many knew, and her qualities of resilience, courage, commitment, and always her laughter, or the steely glare, as Dan, her husband, yes. Mum was born in the years just prior to World War II, and her childhood occurred through the London bombing raids, food rationing, and uncertain survival as individuals and as a nation. A favorite quote from Florence Nightingale: "Live life when you have it. Life is a splendid gift. There's nothing small about it." Mum chose to live a life of resilience, courage, commitment, and laughter. And why a Florence Nightingale quote? Mum trained as a registered nurse in England and practiced as an RN in England, Denmark, and the very small northern community of Beaver Lodge, Alberta, where she and Dad immigrated to. There ended up being an agreement between Mum and Dad that she would not work in the same hospital he practiced in as a physician. As it turns out, they didn't live in a community that had more than one hospital. I would say that there were many communities that were beneficiaries from their decision. Their grand adventure started in Beaver Lodge, Alberta, a very small northern community. The community banded together to put together the wedding for them, as neither family was able to come from England. Mum made the wedding all the more memorable, as she does, with a spectacular fall down the church stairs. And if you've seen the pictures, it was very long stairs. Owen was born in Beaver Lodge, and then the family packed up and moved to Statler, Alberta, where the rest of us were born. Mum built the first kindergarten there. She was always building. With Vange McNaughton and established lifelong friendships. An impetus for the kindergarten may have been that Vange had 7 children and Mum had 4. A shout out to Uncle Dave and those in Alberta that are watching today. Mem's interaction with people grew and nurtured lifelong friendships, and those relationships have sustained many of us through the years. As Sonia Drinkwater shared with us, the FTD florists were outdone by Gillian, who was forever bringing gifts to store openings, anniversaries, birthdays, and more. Mum had an amazing green thumb and loved to garden. Many of those gifts were those she grew herself. Having a family, being with family, and nurturing a family, all very important to Mum. Mum maintained close connections with both the Trumper and Petman families in England. It was always important that those ties be maintained for her and us. With her own family continents away, Mum built a family by choice. Mum created networks and connections of support with many other women from the community and other immigrants like herself to build villages in all of the communities she lived, to raise and support many children. Some of that family by choice have predeceased her. Many young and older are in this room today. Christmas and family occasions were the more the merrier, because there was more people available for us to debate with. We never really knew who was going to be there at Christmas, and it really didn't matter. Okay, so our very early family days involved trips to England, sailboats, camping, shucking oysters at Qualicum Bay. It's about building memories and sharing experiences together. This continued into the next generation. Mom's face would light up talking about her grandchildren, hiking and biking and walking on the beach, looking at starfish. Many trips on the train to McLean Mill, even when the girls got old enough to go, like, again. Her thoughtfulness, always blue and dolphins for Alicia, pink and elephants for Melissa, craft dinner in her suitcase for Jordan to Australia. She and Alicia shared a special love for the royal family. The tiara Alicia brought with her for Mom to wear as they watched the last royal wedding together in Port Alberni stayed right beside Mom's reading chair looped around the lamp. I think everybody got to wear it last night, pretty much, at the Brie and Barrel. I haven't stumbled across the feather boas that they wore that day yet. Nicholas remembers picking blackberries and the feeling of warmth and family when he was with her. Tofino, the Trumper family Tofino, is an annual journey, a family recommitment, rest, laughter, and a safe space for all. We have been going annually for about 30 years and plan to continue. Mom always had a dog. We can't forget her furry companions. She said they were always happy to see you and they never talked back. All of us children can recite events that in hindsight, when you're the kids of a politician and a physician in town, in hindsight, we're not the most brilliant of decisions. But Mom still took us back when we needed to lick our wounds. She knows what events we're speaking of, so we're not going to take the time to recite very many of them. But every so often, some of our antics leaked into her professional life. One of us had a memorable grad drunk experience, which involved arriving home very early the next morning dressed in a pink blanket and not much more. The event was used many years later by the committee seeking funding from the city for a dry grad celebration. The pink blanket was used in an example of terrible outcomes, which could be avoided. We remain in the dark as to whether that funding application was successful or not. By the way, Owen would like to do a shout out to those who got him home safely that morning. Resilience. While Mom was on school board, the coroner, mayor, and MLA, there was also family challenges and loss. One young child with rheumatic fever, a child with cancer, a divorce, grandchildren with health issues. She was widowed with the loss of her beloved Mike, her husband, and our dad and grandfather. Mom had numerous health challenges the past number of years that very few were probably aware of. There was a lot of Trumper children huddles and behind the scenes maneuvering to try to get more supports into Mom's home without her really noticing, right? I can see her eye roll now that we actually thought she didn't notice. I can imagine there are other people in the room that tried to maneuver Mom, and it probably went just as well as our attempts. She allowed us to provide input, express concern, and at the end of the day, it was very clear she would do it on her terms. Politics. We can't not speak a little bit about politics because it was a large part. The opportunity to debate was always around the supper table. I remember when I was campaigning for Mom at her first run as mayor back in 1983, the father of a good friend of mine looked at me and said, I would vote for her. I'd love to, but she's a woman. And I was like, what? Shaking my head and thinking, what's that got to do with anything, right? For voting for Mom as a mayor. He became one of her strongest supporters and campaigned for her tirelessly. Thank you, Shuri Minion, and others on your tributes to Mom. Many have remarked on the trail Mom blazed for women in politics in this community and in the province. We think she would smile and be satisfied that her role modeling courage and commitment for women in politics and in other opportunities is now a road more often traveled. Courage. She was there when we each took our first breath in the world, and as her children, we had the privilege of being beside her at the end, supporting her decision to end dialysis. Jackson sent a beautiful tribute to her in a text message while in hospice, and Jordan was thankfully able to be there with us at this time. It was very difficult, and as always, Mom tried to make the decision as easy as possible for those around her. Thank you, Mom. We were so very fortunate that you were able to make that choice. From the other siblings to Trish, thank you for being there and supporting Mom as her health deteriorated over the past few years. The once-a-month weekend visits became much more frequent and the length of time longer that you stayed to help her. Her ability to stay in her home and maintain independence was a great gift. Thank you to her husband, Michael III. We call him Three because he's the third Michael, and he answers to Uncle Three if anybody wants to call him. For your unwavering support and your love for Trish Mom, caring for this family. One more quote by Lolly Descal that caught my eye that reminded me of Mom. As with Mom, it was always about our experiences together and the memories that were created. Extraordinary leaders know that you shape people by shaping their experiences. What distinguishes them is the clarity and persuasiveness of their ideas, the depth of their commitment, and their openness to continually learning more and creating experiences for people. They know how to shape you so you can shape the world. Mom, you are mourned deeply by us. We will miss your brilliant blue glare and your brilliant blue eyes, warm smile, infectious laugh, and quiet, unwavering support and belief in us, your family. You lived a life of courage, resilience, and dignity. May we all strive to achieve the same.
Thank you, Carolyn. And I just realized my pages are out of order, sorry. Or I've lost the page, so. Sorry about that. I know that everyone in this room has a story or remembrance of Jillian that they would love to share with their family. To enable you to do that, we have provided memory cards on the table, which you can pass along those memories to the family. This is a wonderful way to share Jillian's lasting legacies with her children. In this section of the program called Remembrances, we will hear from friends and a few representatives of organizations that Jillian was involved in. As many of you know and have heard today, Jillian's contributions throughout her life have impacted many people and organizations. Acknowledgements of her contributions have been received from many people, including the City of Abashiri and the Abashiri Port Alberni Sister City Society. I would like to read a few excerpts from their letters. From the Mayor of Abashiri, Mayor Trumper was, of course, the driving force in the twinning of our communities and signed the original twinning accord with the Mayor of Abashiri. She was a strong advocate of the youth education exchanges, which continue to this day, and which provide invaluable experiences and opportunities for our young people. Mayor Trumper had a deep connection with the people of Abashiri and made many friends in the community. She is remembered by all who knew her with the greatest respect. From Shinko, a former cultural exchange student and active member in the Sister City Society, she said, "It was due to her strong leadership that the twinning of our two societies became a reality, a friendship that continues today with many of our students visiting our respective communities. She was truly a great lady, and I learned a lot from her. She will always be in my heart, and I will never forget her kindness." And many people in the room will know Shinko. I would like now to call on Charles Lawson. Charles is the son of Jillian's lifelong friend, Ann Lawson. Charles has journeyed from Ottawa, where he now lives, to be with us today.
Thank you, Teresa, and good afternoon. I did not write down my remarks, which may prove to be a mistake, so bear with me. For me, my memories of Jillian Trumper are very personal. To me, she was my Auntie Jill. She was a constant presence in my life. As was said in the opening remarks, she was a lifelong friend of my mother, and Carolyn talked about Jill starting off as a young nursing student at Westminster Teaching Hospital in London. She was still a teenager at that time, as was my mother. That's where they met. They also went to Denmark together. as Carolyn talked about. And their lives in many ways took similar paths. So Jill married Michael, a doctor. My mother married a physician as well. Jill came to Canada. 3 years later, my mother came to Canada, also to Western Canada, not to Alberta, but to Saskatchewan. With time, their paths split up a little bit because Auntie Jill kept going west and we wound up going east. So even though I can't really say that I grew up with her as a young child, she was that constant presence. There were always gifts that were exchanged with the Trumper kids and us. I have 2 siblings, and every Christmas, every birthday, there would be something that would show up from Auntie Jill, and we would have to sit down and write the obligatory thank you letter. And I always remember reading Owen, Carolyn, Michael, and Trish's thank you letters that would come the other way to us. There was no question. There had to be a thank you letter. And if there was no thank you letter, there was no follow-up gift. So there was motivation to do it. Things for my family wound up going not so well. The marriage between my parents didn't last. And we reached a point, we were living in Montreal at the time, we reached a point where my mother, who had been a stay-at-home mom, had to go back to work. And we were faced with kind of a stark choice because my mom didn't speak French, so there was no way that she could find work in Quebec. And for a while it looked like we were going to go back to the UK. And then Auntie Jill reached out and said, don't go back to the UK, come to Port Alberni, we'll figure it out. So that's what we did. We packed up the car and packed up our stuff and moved out here. And Auntie Jill and Uncle Mike bought a house, and when we got here, they took us and they said, you know, here's your new home. And I shouldn't say, I mean, our new home, but our real home was with the Trumper family. They also opened their hearts and took us in, and every Christmas thereafter in Port Alberni we would spend with them as a family. We're not blood relatives, you know, as you can tell, but I mean, I've always thought of the Trumpers as my family. And I didn't stay in Port Alberni all that long. I was 16 years old when we came here, so finished up high school and then went off to UBC, and then life took me in a number of various directions, ultimately to Ottawa, where, as was said, I now live. But Auntie Jill was a constant presence in my life. She was there when I graduated from high school. She was there when I graduated from university. She was there when I got married. Every step of the way. She was there, of course. My mother, unfortunately, predeceased her. She was there for that. One of the things that I was reminded of when I was reading some of the memories of Auntie Jill and the obituaries was I saw her birthday and of April 28th. And my mom, they were born the same year. My mom was born on May 11th, so what's that, 14 days later, but would constantly remind Auntie Jill that she was younger than her. And I come back to BC on a fairly regular basis and would always try and make a point of getting together with Auntie Jill. Lots of times, my mom wound up eventually leaving Port Alberni and moving to Parksville, so we would often meet up in Coombs and have lunch. She was also incredibly welcoming when my mom remarried to my stepfather, Ken, who's here today. And they also became very good friends. So all I can say is that, you know, she was not only on the public level, and I certainly don't want to take anything away from all of the wonderful things she did publicly, but on a personal level, she was a wonderful person. I don't think I would be standing here as the person I am today if she had not reached out and invited our family to come to Port Alberni. It changed my life. It changed it for the better, and I owe a lot to her, and I'm going to miss her very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Our next speaker is Penny Pretty. Penny is a former school board chair, MLA, councillor, and MP. She is the past president of the Association of Former MLAs of British Columbia. Similar to Jillian, she is a strong supporter of women in politics and believer in the democratic process. Penny Pretty.
I have years of experience doing this. There. It's fine. It's fine. And she's there watching us, saying, don't say those nice things. Don't say those nice things. Because that was Jillian. You know, she didn't want fuss. She didn't want people doing all of that special things for her. She was so independent. I want to first acknowledge that we're standing today, or meeting today, on the unceded territorial lands of the Nuu-chah-nulth people. To Jillian's family, to your friends, thank you very much just for the opportunity to be here today on behalf of the former MLAs of British Columbia. I would have been here anyway, but it just happens that I'm here representing the former MLAs of British Columbia, along with my wonderful colleague and very good friend Gerard Jansen, who you will know far better than I, because he was the former MLA of Port Alberni and has always been a very, very good friend to me. I got to ride on his motorcycle the very last day I had chemotherapy because I had breast cancer when I was in office. Gerard took me out for the very first ride on his new motorcycle. It was fabulous. I wasn't a big motorcycle rider, but we rode all over Victoria. And part of that is why it's important to be here for me, for the former MLAs of BC. It's this organization, and I'll just take a minute because it's important as it relates to Jillian for me. It was formed about 32 years ago by a number of MLAs who thought, you know, perhaps MLAs who've left the field of being elected politicians might still want some of that feeling of collegiality, of maybe doing a bit of good work together. And it really was, I don't know whether to call it nonpartisan, but it was certainly pan-partisan. And the 5 people who signed the original papers in '87 were Gardy Gardam, Gordon Gibson, Jim Nielsen, Dennis Cope, and David Marshall. A conservative, a liberal, a New Democrat, social credit. So it really was about a nonpartisan or pan-partisan approach to keeping people together for that sense of collegiality and the fact that maybe there was still some good work to be done. Just because you leave politics in an elected way, we all knew, including Jillian, and you can see that with Jillian, that there's still lots of good work to be done. You know, Tommy Douglas always said, remember, friends, it's not too late to build a better world. And like everybody, we just wanted to help build a better world. I knew Jillian not as an elected person, other than coming over because I was a cabinet minister to do events over here, but I knew her because she was the president of the former MLAs of BC. And I became president when Jillian left. The reason that Jillian was so important to that organization is it was held together by a shoestring by a man by the name of Hugh Curtis. Hugh Curtis was a finance minister in the earlier social credit government. And he was a wonderful man who held the former MLAs together. And he was of an age. Hugh died about 7 years ago now, and everything was handwritten. So when he died, all of the records of the organization were handwritten in writing that, very few people could read. The financial statements were sort of on yellow stickies somewhere on his desk, you know, near where he wrote out his handwritten notes. He traveled across the province to interview former MLAs. And all of a sudden, there's Jillian, and Hugh has died suddenly. Well, I don't know how she did it. I truly don't. So there's Jillian left to try and pull all this together, from handwritten notes no audited statements, financial stickies somewhere, and trying to pull this organization back together. She literally saved its life. Now, as you know, Jillian is a British nurse, was a British nurse. I am a former nurse. I probably graduated, not from Britain, but about 6 years after Jillian did. But I remember the day, I remember what we learned, I remember the things we saw, and I remember the sort of, sometimes you just have to take charge. Like you just have to do it. No more discussion, just do it. And Jillian just did it. And she made more trips to Victoria to try and pull this organization together. It was absolutely stunning. And she held it together. We have a dinner at Government House every year, brings all the politicians, former politicians together. But Jillian believed in that because she believed when you leave politics, it doesn't mean you're done. And it doesn't mean you don't work cross-party to do good things. And she's always done that. You can see that in this town. You can't choose to be political in a small town. You can't really choose to do that in most places. One of the things that Jillian, I think, did incredibly well, there's a phrase, institutions learn by study, people learn by stories. And it's true. People learn by stories. And Jillian knew enough, and as I hope any good politician would, I'm sure Rich and Gerard do, is you have to go out, you have to walk out of your office and down the street to the strike line, to the picket line, or to the cafe, or to the grocery store, or wherever, in order to hear people's stories. And so Jillian did that. She knew the personal stories of the people that she cared about, and she told those stories in order to make a difference. And it did. And that's what former politicians, I hope, will do. They tell the stories in order to teach. Jillian told stories to other women about women in politics. She came to the Canadian Women Voters Conference Congress Campaign School that my friend Joanne Silver helped to found. And she came and talked about what it's like to be a mayor. And as a result of her presentation there were several women who went back to where they came from, to BC and to Alberta and from other places in the country, and they ran for council. A couple of them ran for mayor, as a result of the stories they heard Jillian tell. So she was amazing in terms of telling the stories to support other people. The former politicians of former MLAs of BC consider this a great loss to us. She was wonderful at getting things done, and we were very grateful for that. And she also knew, Jillian, that, you know, there's a suffragist quote. I mean, come on, I'm a feminist. I believe in women in politics. What can I tell you? Suffragist quote from the early 1900s, where a woman said, "You have to pay the passage for those who come behind you because someone paid the passage for you." And Jillian has paid the passage for so many people, women and men, who've come behind her. I would hope that that was what every politician would do, but Jillian did it splendidly. And there's examples all over this town and all over this province of Jillian paying the passage for those who came before her. Well done, Jillian Trumper. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Next up is Bill Collette, is the CEO of the Alberni Valley Chamber of Commerce, an organization that Jillian supported in many ways over the years. Bill is honored to speak on behalf of the membership, employees, and board of directors, past and present, who worked with Jillian on many projects. Welcome, Bill.
First of all, I'm honored to be here today to represent the Chamber of Commerce, and I thank the family for including me in this in this honor here today. Just before I get started, I was reminded by Rich Coleman of the stare, and because I received that stare actually in 2013 when shortly after I moved here, Jillian came up to the Chamber of Commerce to welcome me to Port Alberni, which I thought was fantastic. But during that conversation, I saw the eyes, and I recognized that stare. And at the time, I'd come to the understanding that I reported to a board of directors of 13 people. But by the time the conversation with Jillian was over, I realized that I actually reported to Jillian. And I was honored to do so. Jillian pointed out a couple of things to me in that meeting that were important to her for the Chamber of Commerce to continue with. One of them was the ambassador program, and Rich Coleman referred to that indirectly when he mentioned Cathedral Grove. Jillian was an ambassador with us, which is a group of volunteers that go out and welcome people to Port Alberni, often in Cathedral Grove. She spent time there and was very, very proud to welcome people to the area. She also spent time on the Francis Barclay doing the same thing. But her big thing that she focused on in that meeting, and she continued to focus on over the years with me, was our awards event, the annual Community Excellence Awards that Jillian was very, very proud of and adamant that we continue with, to the point where she stared at me about it several times. Make sure you continue with that. Make sure that you continue with the Youth of the Year Award. That was the award that was critical for Jillian Trumper, to the point where she actually told me it was our most important annual award. And I found that interesting because Jillian Trumper was also the Citizen of the Year one time, an annual award. She felt the Youth of the Year Award was more important than the annual Citizen of the Year Award. She was a recipient. Over the years, she also would come to see me about the Youth of the Year Award. And at one point, I remember her saying, Bill, if you invite a youth here who becomes a finalist, that youth is to win the award. Got to the point where in 2016, we had 3 finalists, we had 3 winners. Same for 2017. 2018, we had 4 finalists, 4 winners. 2019, Jillian presented the award just a few months ago to 5 youth in Port Alberni. Very impressive. I'd like to end with something for the family. My condolences, personal condolences for the loss of Jillian Trumper. We feel it at the Chamber of Commerce. We will always remember Jillian. And I'd like to make a commitment here today to the family that because of that stare, we're going to continue with the Youth of the Year Award, except with one change. The award will now be changed to the Jillian Trumper Youth of the Year Award. Thank you very much.
I'd now like to call up Hugh Grist. Hugh is one of the founding members of the Alberni Valley Community Foundation and is the board chair. Jillian was a board member and active supporter of the Community Foundation.
Thank you, Teresa. First, on behalf of the board and myself, our condolences to the family and the loss. Jillian's served with us for the past 9 years, and I've had that stare as well. And also, she insisted on Robert's Rules of Order for our meetings, so always kept me in line as far as that went. My personal memories go back further than that, probably close to 30, 40 years. And we seem to share the same ideals. I remember going to council and making various presentations. It never seemed to get turned down when Jillian was mayor. One that comes to mind, of course, is when we went to, as the Industrial Heritage Society, went to the city to purchase Port Alberni railway station. And we said, if you purchase a station, we'll restore it. And so we got it passed, and it was all in favour, unanimous decision. And many of you remember that long weekend in 1990. It was a 3-day summer weekend, 85 volunteers worked from dawn till dusk to restore the station. And Hubert, our beloved mayor, came down every day with great big bowls of chili to feed the crew. But unsolicited, but that's the way she was. It wasn't just the approval at council, she came down and actually did the work. So I'm proud to have called her my friend. and colleagues. Thank you.
I'd next like to call on Ellen Frood. Ellen is the Executive Director of the Alberni Community and Women's Services, an organization dedicated to working with women and children impacted by abuse, sexual assault, and domestic violence. Jillian supported the work of ACAUS in many ways, including her role on the board for 8 years, with most of those as the board chair. Ellen is honored to have had the opportunity to say a few words today.
Thank you. First of all, to the family, please accept my most sincere condolences for the loss of an absolutely extraordinary person and for the community loss. When I was asked to say a few words today, I really wasn't certain where I would begin because, quite honestly, I'm relatively new to Port Alberni, and I may be one of the few people in this room who never received the stare, just so you know. So I reached out to Anne Grabowski, who was a former ED for ACAUS, and she put something in writing, and I thought it's really appropriate that I just read what Anne had to say. Excuse me. Anne said, I remember back in the early 2000s after the election of Gordon Campbell and the Liberal Party to British Columbia's legislature, the protests that happened in Victoria as different groups expressed their opinions about decisions made by the new government. Jillian was a newly elected MLA for Alberni Qualicum, and her office opened across the street from the Women's Centre. In those days, our staff were very committed to expressing their beliefs about the political process, decisions made by the government at all levels, and public policies that impacted women and children who were victims of violence. And this sometimes took the form of protests and signs in the windows of the Women's Centre. You can imagine where this is going, right? So one day, I went across the street to meet with Jillian. As I knew, as our MLA, we would need to build a good working relationship. Government provided a great deal of our funding, and we were concerned about what the future might hold for us. When I told her why I was there, she was surprised, but not for long. She got right down to business and asked quite bluntly why I thought it was okay to have signs in our window that expressed negative opinions of the Premier and the governing party when that very same government was the one that funded us. She asked me what kind of message I thought that was sending out to our elected MLA and other members of the community. And said, I have to say at that moment was one that I will never forget. Jillian taught me in 60 seconds about the power of relationships, negotiation, strategy, and healthy community. It wasn't an easy lesson to learn, and in fact, Anne said she was embarrassed and chagrined. But it was probably one of the most important lessons I've ever learned in my career, she said, and I've never forgotten it. The signs came down that afternoon. Jillian did join our board in 2006 and became chair in 2007. She led our organization with a steady, calm, a clear focus, and complete dedication. She shared once that her husband used to help women who ended up in the hospital after a domestic violence incident, and her work with our organization, while different from him, was incredibly important for our community and its work to end violence against women, children, and their families. There's a long list of things that Jillian did for us as an organization. Anne went on to remember Jillian's quiet commitment, her sense of humor, her ability to see the bigger picture, and her unwavering commitment to each and every individual in our community. On a personal note, Jillian was one of the first people I met when I arrived in Port Alberni. In fact, it was Joanne Silver, thank you, Joanne, who said that I really had to meet her because she was somebody that was going to help me in what I had to do. Jillian and I had lunch together, and we shared information on each other. In a quiet way, she offered to be there if I needed assistance or advice. I knew that to be a true offer and was thankful for her support. I guess all I can say is on behalf of the women and the children that we serve, I would really like to express how grateful ACAUS is to Jillian for her support and for her kindness. I describe Port Alberni, coming here as a new person, as a mighty community. And it's because of Jillian, in part, that this community is as mighty as it is. So again, my sympathies to the family.
Thank you, Ellen. I'd next like to call on Christina Proto, who is a member and past president of the Port Alberni Rotary Club. Jillian was an active member and strong supporter of Rotary International.
I'm also a lawyer, so I'll keep this short. Laugh. Thank you, Teresa. First off, I want to take a moment on behalf of my family and on behalf of the Rotary Club of Port Alberni to send deepest condolences to the family on the loss of this truly larger-than-life woman. Born and raised in Port Alberni, Jillian Trumper was just that to me. She was larger than life. I also want to take a moment to thank Teresa for her efforts in pulling all of this together today and all of the logistics and planning that goes into that. I had the pleasure when I came home to Port Alberni after university of going to lunch with Jillian a few times before I decided what I wanted to do with my life eventually. And that was special. I had an interest in learning about Jillian's career path and how she navigated the world and all the things that she had achieved. She was and will continue to be such a fascinating woman, such a strong female role model in this community. She was so generous with her time with me back then, and obviously with many others that you've heard from already today and others in the room. I came to know Jillian more closely as a fellow Rotarian in Jillian's club, the Lunch Club. She joined in 2006. She quickly ascended to president in 2008. She was in charge of everything in this town at one point or another, as you already know. After her presidency, she was a constant figure on the executive. I was a young president in my 20s at some point in time, and I do remember receiving the glare. As I stumbled my way through the agenda, Jillian would look over and I could feel the vibe of, you better get this meeting back on track. She spearheaded a number of projects in our group. She was involved with the Mid-Island group. She spearheaded the daffodil planting project, which was, you've already heard Hugh speak of chili, but often followed by a bowl of chili back at her home. She was involved in our February dinner and dance for years since its inception. She had a lot of passion for Melanie Burton and the breakfast program here in Port Alberni. Those are just a few of the programs that she was involved with. She was quick to extol praise on those who were worthy of it for their volunteer work within our own club and others in the community. She was thoughtful and direct with a sharp sense of humor. A project that was close to Jillian's heart was the shelter box project she would organize at Christmas time each year, and it would take months, her gathering shoe boxes from local businesses in town and gathering or shopping for personal items, chocolates, clothing, things of that nature. Some of it coming from the club, some of it donated by, well, much of it donated by Jillian herself. Jillian would bring all of these items to the Barclay and organize them, and then organize us to fill the boxes, wrap the boxes, and deliver them to the shelter here in Port Alberni. She would often tell us stories and remind us that on Christmas morning, that box wrapped and filled by us was quite often the only thing that that person would be receiving on Christmas Day. And it was not a small thing that we were doing. I'll close with another Christmas story, one story that Jillian often shared at Rotary over Christmas time. Rotarians would often ring the bell at the Salvation Army kettle at various locations here in Port Alberni. And she told a story of being at the kettle and a young child approaching, and the child placing a good bit of money in that kettle. And Jillian was quite taken by this action. And she engaged in conversation with the child, and the child pointed back to their father, who nodded to Jillian. And the child told Jillian, "My father wanted to thank you. You helped us out so much last year at Christmas." And Jillian, with that story and with others, always reminded us that just the smallest act of kindness could make such a huge difference in someone else's life. Jillian made huge impacts with huge actions and huge impacts with small actions. And I just thank her for that beautiful lesson and the legacy that will live on. I'm going to continue to share that story, and I hope other Rotarians will, and I know all of us will continue to share our stories of this legendary woman. Thanks very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Christina. Next up is Jennifer Collette. Jennifer is the president of the Alberni Valley Hospice Society in Ty Watson House. As a voice for the staff and volunteers who cared for and welcomed Jillian and her family to Ty Watson House in her final days, she would like to say a few words and make a small presentation to the family.
Thank you, Teresa. Hello. I'm honored to have been invited to speak today at today's celebration of life on behalf of the Alberni Valley Hospice Society and Ty Watson House. I'm sorry about my nerves. Jillian was not directly involved in the running of our society, but she was a tremendous supporter of hospice. She regularly attended our annual Black Tie Gala and was a terrific financial contributor there. Throughout the community, Jillian often had wonderful words of praise for Ty Watson House and all of the work that we do. We felt really appreciated and buoyed by her support and her affirmation. It was an honor for us that Jillian found her way to our care and that she and her family put their trust in us to carry them through her final days. I was in Europe when Jillian entered into the hospice care, and when I returned, I was quickly notified by our staff and volunteers that she was there. I understood at that time that it was going to be a time for family, for goodbyes, and a time for restful peace. Excuse me. Jillian died the following day. In speaking with our staff and volunteers who were at the house during the time, they spoke of a very gracious and appreciative family, and of course of a very gracious Jillian Trumper. We offered all that we could to Jillian, but it was really her family who was there for her, as they had obviously been there for all the years of her life. Gail, however, talks of making her a nice cup of Earl Grey tea, and she said how lovely and regal Jillian looked while sipping it from her Old Country Roads teacup. And I'm sure that we can all envision what that might have looked like that day. Our staff and volunteers mentioned a beautiful blanket, not pink, that the family brought in to hang on the wall, and how this made Jillian's space so warm and special and personal for her. It was a blanket that had obviously been brought on many family gatherings, picnics, things like that. And it was a blanket full of memories, and it was beautiful. To the family, we're so deeply sorry for your loss. It is really difficult going through those final days, knowing that you're going to be saying goodbye to your mom, your grandma. And when that light goes out, it is very, very difficult. So one of our community members, Shauna Jaskin, has painted a beautiful mural in the lobby of Ty Watson House. I'm not sure if you saw it there, but it is a tree of life, and it rests against a bright blue sky. And there's leaves on there of gold and bronze and silver, and each one is engraved with somebody's name who has passed through Ty Watson House and been under our care. So today I have that for you folks, and if you like, you can come to Ty Watson House and put it on the Tree of Life, or you can leave it with us and we can put that there in her name. So just in closing, we will remember your mom always, and thank you for bringing her to our place for her precious little time. Thank you.
So our next speaker is Jimmy Pelk, and the Pelk family are longtime friends of Jillian's, and Jimmy co-sponsored the Chamber of Commerce Youth of the Year Award with Jillian. Call on Jimmy.
Thank you, Teresa. I've scratched some notes down. I was unaware, but so honored to speak today. So bear with me. As I was scratching notes, sitting here, I grabbed Jillian's picture, and sometimes I've been to a lot of these, and sometimes they sit on the table, sometimes they get brought home, sometimes they get read, sometimes they don't. And I opened up the page, and the poem Anonymous is perfect. So if everyone would open that, I just want to read that. So. You can shed tears that she is gone, or you can smile because she has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that she'll come back, or you can open your eyes and see that she's left. See all that she's left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see her, or you can be full of the love you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember her and only that she's gone, or you can cherish her memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what she wants. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. That's Jill. I have so many fond memories of Jill. One I'd forgotten until Rich mentioned it was that stare. And Dan brought it up, another memory where we go to her house and decorate the tree, and I would get that stare, and she would say, "You remind me of one of my children," but she wouldn't tell me who. I now know it's Owen. Some comments about the Youth of the Year. Jill does raise us all up. Jill started this award to encourage, support, raise up the youth in the community, to show them that they have an impact, that they matter, that they can make a difference. To the 20 or 30 youth over the years that have won, know the impact she's left. There's many in the room today. These youth have gone on to become wonderful parents, lawyers, doctors, business owners, and leaders in their own community. Jill is proud of each and every one of them. I just want to read my Facebook message I put on when I heard she passed, and then I'll wrap it up. Jill, you'll forever have a wonderful place in my heart. My first mentor, first person I looked up to. Your toughness, compassion, determination, love, and passion to help others will live on in so many of us. I, like many others, were blessed to know you and call you a close friend. Today I sit here enjoying a tea. Blackcurrant. I asked for blackcurrant, but they didn't have it, so I had Earl Grey. And think about you. May you enjoy your next chapter. Be sure you'll always be in our minds until we meet again. Thank you.
For our last speakers, I'd like to call on what I now learned is the Alberni Valley Constituency Mafia. So if we could have Marianne, Noreen, and Mark come up, and Marianne's going to say a few words on behalf of Jillian's constituency team.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay. A strong woman stands up for herself. A stronger woman stands up for everybody else. That was the Jillian Trumper that we knew and loved. Margaret, Noreen, and I had the unbelievable honor of working with Jillian as her constituency assistants during her term as MLA. It was truly a magical time, and one we wouldn't change for the world.
You know she would say that too. Yeah. We were fierce in our devotion to Jillian, and we would have done anything she asked, which might be how we got our nickname. Rich, you may remember this. We were in Victoria at a conference, and as the three of us approached Jillian and some of her colleagues, she said, "Oh, there's my lot, the Alberni Mafia." Admit it, you just heard her voice in your head and pictured that infamous eye roll. As you've already heard, Jillian was a registered nurse, and we all know that a prerequisite to any medical training is to have nearly illegible handwriting. I remember Noreen telling me that she was having trouble reading Jillian's handwriting. I said, "Read it with an English accent." And it worked. Soon, all three of us were passing that advice on to the legislative assistants in Victoria. Jillian was not particularly tech savvy, though she did give it her all. Like the time we heard this banging noise coming from her office, we peeked through the door and there was Jillian smashing the mouse. "Why won't this thing work?" At the same time, there was an ad on TV, I think it was Blockbuster or something, and they were saying, "Well, bang the mouse, and it was a live mouse. They pulled the ad right after that. It was weird. Jillian worked very hard for her constituents during her term as MLA. I honestly don't know how she did it. It was exhausting just trying to keep up with her. She attended every event that she could, and it was a big riding to cover. We might be in Bamfield one day, Bowser the next, and Hesquit the next after that. Then she'd be off to Victoria again. It was hard to keep track of where she was because she was always on the move. Of course, there's that time she surprised us at the office, coming through the back door at lunchtime and announcing, "Oh, they're probably scrapbooking." And there we were, scrapbooking. At lunchtime, you were probably there, yeah. And as Jillian brought two government ministers with her, we were a bit embarrassed about that one. Jillian worked tirelessly. Oh, sure, blame us. Jillian worked tirelessly, often without anyone knowing, for the Women's Resource Center, Ty Watson House, Cathedral Grove Walkways, First Nations, the Twinning Society, Rotary, Salmon Festival, SPCA, and countless more. And she was adamant about supporting local businesses. We have endless memories and stories to share with each other, some that we might do privately. We decorated her Christmas tree every year and were rewarded with that delicious roast beef dinner, celebrated birthdays and weddings, and through it all we became a family. We loved her, and she loved us, and we will forever miss her. Thank you.
We recognize that there are a lot of people who would like to speak about their relationship with Jillian. However, given time limitations, there will not be an open microphone. Instead, please take the time to share your thoughts with the family while having refreshments or through writing on the memory cards. In closing, I would like to share excerpts from a touching blog, When Tomorrow Comes Too Soon, written by Jim Hume in tribute to Jillian. I'm just going to do a small section of it, but he starts out, "I hadn't talked to Jillian Trumper for several years when I heard that she had died on Friday, October 11th, and I was shamed without excuse. On countless occasions, I had reminded myself to give her a call. Always tomorrow, always, never today, and ultimately too late." Jim goes on to talk about Jillian's strength and traits, and a gracious lady. Talks about a remarkable daughter, wife, mother, counselor, and lady. That was Jillian Trumper. And Jim finishes, "And if this small tribute to a friend has prompted you to remember a phone call you should be making or a quick note you should be writing, you better get on with it. Tomorrow could be too late." And I think Jillian would be telling all of us, as she always did throughout her life in terms of acknowledging others, giving them a boost, raising them up on her shoulders, and would always make sure that she followed through and thanked people and let them know what she thought of them. And I think walking away today, if everyone in this room can do that and recognize and give tribute to someone just like Jillian would, our community would be a better place. What I'd like to do is call on Trish to say some final thank yous.
So, unlike my mom and my siblings, I'm not a public speaker. So, of course,
it is your mom rolling her eyes.
yeah, I know. Yeah. So, of course, I decided today that would be the day I was going to try it. So, why is it doing that? Here we go. Okay. I know. Okay, so today has truly been a celebration of a life well lived. To all of you who have come to contribute to this day, and to those watching from somewhere else near and far, please accept our gratitude. A special shout out to my Auntie Margaret, Mom's sister, who traveled here from England, to nephew Jordan Trumper and his fiancée Diana in Australia, and to all our relatives in the UK. Thank you to Brent Ronnie for performing a song that was dear to Mom. You were incredible, and I know she loved it. To all the speakers, we so appreciate your kind words and memories. It is difficult to condense Mom's life into such a short period of time, but you did her justice. There are so many people who touched Mom's life in some way, large and small. As some of you know, the journey Mom had been on these past few years, and more so in these past few months, have been a difficult one. But in character, she fought hard with courage and dignity, and in the end, she was the one to choose where her life would take her. Asking for assistance was not in Mom's nature, but those of you she did ask, you stepped up to the plate. Thank you to Ken Casson, Barb McKillop, Sonia Drinkwater, Carolyn Ken Ham, Amanda Walton, Jill Booker, the Alberni Mafia, and Jane Whitacase. You were there when she needed it. You brought moments of joy and laughter into her life, camaraderie, and conversation. I know she was truly appreciative and cherished all her relationships with you. I knew that on the days I was not able to be with her, there were people quietly watching over her, which brought me peace of mind and comfort. Apologies to the people that I'm sure I've forgotten to mention. Thank you to all the healthcare practitioners that provided care to Mom over the years, the doctors, nurses, care aides, and so many more that worked together as a team to make her journey as easy as they could. Special thanks to Dr. Darrell Lund, all the nurses at the Port Alberni Dialysis Unit, and the late Dr. Don Sander. To the staff and volunteers of Ty Watson, thank you. You took such loving care of Mom and opened your arms to embrace her family and friends. We will never forget your kindness and generosity of spirit. To the city of Port Alberni, Mayor Minion, city staff Davina, Jeff, and Alicia, and to Jim Craneveld of Imagine FX, thank you for helping to make this celebration and its live streaming possible. Thank you to Dallas of Delziel Productions for his videography. To Teresa Kingston, who took on the challenge of putting this day together, you did a superb job. I'm not really sure you knew what you were getting into, but you were deft at herding cats. You organized us well, and we are forever grateful. Mom would have been proud of what you accomplished. I can hear her saying, if you say you're going to do a job right, you do it right. You definitely did it right. Thank you to Carol Ann and the staff members of the Town Hall for all your input and effort in making this day a special one. The space looks amazing. Thanks to Azalea Flores for providing us with such beautiful flowers. I'm almost done. To my beloved husband, Michael, thank you for being my rock over the past few years. Without your unwavering support, I would not have had the privilege of enjoying and spending so much time with Mom. We all wish to thank our spouses, families, and friends for their support during this difficult transition. I want to thank Carol and Ken Ham for opening their arms and home to Mom's beloved Peanut. His training of you is well on its way, and I know he will soon have your house in order, of course, as long as you give him a treat. And finally, I want to thank Mom for her love, her integrity, her compassion, and her devotion to family and community. I only hope that we are able to be half the person you are. I hope we made you proud, even though you were never comfortable with fuss and bother. We love you. Thank you, everyone. Yaki da. Good health to all.
So that brings to the end of the formal program. I'd like you all to stay seated in your seats so that it can allow the Italian Hall staff here time to bring the food out to the tables. And I would encourage you to stay and enjoy the friendship of Jillian's family, friends, and colleagues, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. So 5 minutes in your seat, and then you can be up and circulate. Thank you very much, everyone. You can now feel free to help yourself to food and coffee, tea,